From defendant to judge in a single day, Evelyn Harper's journey takes a shocking twist that leaves the courtroom speechless. And justice served. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the crowd settled into their seats. It was a typical Thursday morning in downtown Chicago, and Judge Harold Thompson presided over his usual docket of minor offenses, speeding tickets, small claims disputes, and public disturbance charges. Today's case seemed mundane at first glance. A middle-aged woman named Evelyn Harper stood accused of vandalizing a neighbor's property after an argument about noise levels. Her worn-out cardigan and tired eyes made her look like someone who had seen better days. She clutched her purse tightly, clearly overwhelmed by the formal setting of the court. Evelyn's accuser, Mr. Richard Langston, sat smugly on the other side of the aisle. A well-dressed real estate developer known for his arrogance, he smirked as he recounted how Evelyn had allegedly thrown a brick through his expensive bay window during their heated disagreement. "Your Honor," he said confidently, "this woman is nothing but a troublemaker. I have witnesses and photos to prove it." The prosecutor nodded along, already convinced that this would be an open and shut case. As Evelyn took the stand, she fumbled nervously under questioning from both the prosecution and defense attorneys. Her voice trembled when asked if she committed the act, and though she denied it vehemently, her lack of confidence only fueled skepticism among those present. Even Judge Thompson raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed by her demeanor. "Ma'am," he said sternly, "you seem awfully defensive for someone claiming innocence." The tension in the room grew thicker as the evidence against Evelyn mounted. Photos of the shattered window were passed around, and two neighbors testified they saw Evelyn near the scene of the crime around the time it occurred. One even claimed they heard her shouting threats earlier that day. Each piece of testimony chipped away at Evelyn's credibility, leaving her visibly shaken. She tried to defend herself, but her explanations came out disjointed and feeble. At one point, Richard leaned back in his chair, flashing a triumphant grin. "Looks like justice will prevail here," he muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear. His comment elicited snickers from some spectators, further humiliating Evelyn. Tears welled up in her eyes as she pleaded with the judge, her voice cracking. "Please, Your Honor, I didn't do this. You have to believe me." But Judge Thompson wasn't moved. He adjusted his glasses and sighed deeply, shaking his head. "Ms. Harper, your behavior today has been erratic, and the evidence against you is damning. Unless you can provide something substantial to refute these claims, I'm afraid I'll have no choice but to rule in favor of Mr. Langston." The words hit Evelyn like a punch to the gut. For a moment, she just stared at him, frozen, before lowering her head in defeat. Then, without warning, the doors at the back of the courtroom burst open. Everyone turned to see who had interrupted the proceedings. Gasps rippled through the room as a tall figure strode purposefully toward the bench. A woman dressed impeccably in a tailored black suit, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. The mysterious woman carried herself with authority, exuding a quiet confidence that commanded attention. As she approached the front of the room, whispers spread like wildfire. Who was she? What business did she have barging into the middle of a trial? Richard Langston shifted uncomfortably in his seat, suddenly less sure of himself. Evelyn, still, reeling from the judge's harsh words, barely registered what was happening until the woman stopped directly beside her. "Order in the court!" Judge Thompson barked, slamming his gavel down. "Who are you? And what is the meaning of this? Intrusion?" The woman turned to face him, her expression calm yet steely. "Your Honor," she began, her voice clear and commanding, "I apologize for the interruption, but there seems to be a misunderstanding here. My name is Evelyn Harper, and I am not the defendant in this case. I am the newly appointed replacement for Judge Thompson." A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Evelyn, the same Evelyn who had just been humiliated on the stand, was now standing tall, radiating poise and power. She produced official documents from her briefcase, handing them to the bailiff to deliver to Judge Thompson. "Effective immediately," she continued. "I've been assigned to oversee all cases in this jurisdiction, and since this matter falls under my purview, I intend to address it thoroughly." Richard's face turned pale as realization dawned. The woman he had mocked and dismissed mere moments ago was now the one holding his fate in her hands. Spectators exchanged stunned glances while the prosecutor looked as though he might faint. Even Judge Thompson appeared flustered, quickly gathering his things as he prepared to vacate the bench. Once Evelyn Harper took her rightful place on the judge's bench, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted dramatically. The once dismissive murmurs of skepticism were replaced by an electric tension as everyone waited to see how this unexpected turn would unfold. Evelyn wasted no time asserting her authority, immediately calling for a review of the case file. She meticulously examined every detail, leaving no stone unturned. Her demeanor was calm but resolute, her sharp eyes scanning documents and scrutinizing testimonies with precision that revealed years of legal expertise hidden beneath her humble exterior. Evelyn began by addressing the inconsistencies in the prosecution's arguments. With poise and clarity, she questioned each witness individually, exposing contradictions in their accounts. One neighbor admitted under her gentle yet probing questioning that they hadn't actually seen Evelyn throw the brick. They had merely assumed it based on rumors circulating after the incident. Another witness reluctantly confessed that Richard Langston had pressured them into lying, threatening subtle forms of retaliation if they didn't cooperate. These revelations unraveled the foundation of the case against Evelyn piece by piece, turning what seemed like damning evidence into mere speculation. As Evelyn continued her interrogation, Richard Langston grew increasingly agitated. His earlier smugness dissolved into nervous fidgeting as he realized the tables had turned completely. For the first time, he found himself at the mercy of the very person he had mocked and humiliated just moments before. Evelyn's transformation, from a timid defendant to a commanding figure of justice, was nothing short of awe-inspiring. The audience watched in stunned silence, some exchanging glances of disbelief, while others nodded approvingly at the fairness and thoroughness of her approach. When all testimonies were heard and cross-examined, Evelyn called for closing statements. Rising from her seat, she addressed the courtroom with measured authority. "This case," she began, her voice steady and unwavering, "has highlighted not only the importance of truth but also the dangers of presumption and manipulation within our judicial system." She paused briefly, allowing her words to sink in, then continued. "Mr. Langston, your attempts to exploit your resources and influence to bully innocent individuals have been exposed today. Based on the lack of credible evidence presented and the admission of coercion by your witnesses, I find the defendant, Ms. Harper, not guilty." The room erupted into spontaneous applause, breaking the formal decorum of the courtroom. Spectators clapped and cheered, many rising to their feet. In admiration of Evelyn's handling of the situation, Richard Langston sat frozen in his chair, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. When Evelyn announced additional measures, a restraining order against him to prevent further harassment of Evelyn or her neighbors, the final blow struck hard. Without another word, Richard stormed out of the courtroom, his arrogance shattered. After the verdict was delivered, Evelyn stepped down from the bench, visibly relieved, yet composed. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed her, eager to capture her reaction to the unprecedented events of the day. But Evelyn remained modest, deflecting praise with grace. "Sometimes," she said simply, "justice takes patience and courage. Today, we saw both prevail." Her quiet strength resonated deeply with those who witnessed her journey, cementing her legacy as a symbol of resilience and integrity. In the days that followed, news of Evelyn's remarkable story spread far beyond the confines of the Chicago courthouse. It became a beacon of hope for ordinary people facing injustice, proving that even in the most daunting circumstances, truth and perseverance can triumph over arrogance and deceit. And though Evelyn returned to her duties as a judge with humility, she carried with her the knowledge that she had made a difference, not just for herself, but for everyone who believed in the power of fairness and justice.